All right, Lorenzo. Happy to have you, man. I'm super excited. We're starting the podcast here together. So I remember when I met you, you were a new Keller Williams realtor, and dude, I'm super proud of where your growth, where you're at now. So let's catch up a little bit. How's real estate? How's real estate going for you here in the first quarter of 2022?
Dude, it's definitely an interesting market. It's when we did meet, did the pandemic already happen, or was it like approaching?
I think it was right before, like December before.
So pretty much my whole real estate experience has been pandemic life. So adjusting to that has been interesting. Thankfully, man, I've got to meet really good people. I mean, like yourself, just having a little bit of guidance, and to the point where today, I have a good pipeline going, but being that it's a seller's market and primarily working with buyers, it is just an interesting experience, man, day to day.
Yeah. And there's always something new coming out of the woodwork, some new challenge in transactions. Obviously, every client is different, so that sometimes, gives you unique scenarios throughout, right? So I'm sure, I definitely know you've experienced that, because we had a joint conversation on one of those with that client. We don't even go into details, but it was entertaining to say the least.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's good though. The learning experience is great. I'm working with an FHA buyer, a VA buyer, all cash buyer, and it's just each one has having their own unique experience navigating through this seller's market, man.
Yeah.
And I think the best piece of advice that people like you have given me is just take these first couple of years as the learning experience, and that way when eventually inevitably it cycles back to another seller's market, you'll be more prepped for this one. Because it is definitely trial by fire right now, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenging time on the buy side, and definitely a lot of options on the seller side.
That's true.
Which leads for an interesting market, but overall, I feel like there's opportunity out there if the buyers that are really committed and are really working hard at getting that property and not giving up, they end up buying something or getting something eventually. Just a matter of kind of getting over that hurdle and being committed to the process, and usually it ends up working out for them. If they are kind of in that direction, mentally at least.
Dude, yeah, I know. I had a client who recently closed, and his big thing was telling his friend who's looking. He's like, man, if you really want a property, they need to view it as a job, right? Hey, we need to go out and view properties that we have the best chance of getting, and just go out and view. I mean, that's kind of what it is. I remember my very first deal. It was first house we viewed, first offer we put in, we got it. And I was like, is that easy? I was like, dude, I'm about to kill 20 deals this year. And then, I think real estate life started up, and it was, hey, we're going out every weekend to view 8 properties, putting in 4 offers, and maybe not getting them all accepted, or changing it up somewhere in the middle, to now I'm able to actually advise clients a little bit better. Like, hey, the market's here. Let's hold off on this property. I know it's beautiful. I know it's done up, but let's go this route. And now you have something that you have a better chance of getting, and you could put value into it. And that's more of the strategy I'm trying to convey to some of these other buyers that maybe aren't having the best time, but they want something in this market.
Yeah.
And it is just kind of tailoring, what they're looking for, and giving them just the best chance to get something.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully, with these episodes and this podcast, we can kind of share some of the insight of what we see that's working, the strategies that we use with our clients, and then now we can help somebody out, out there that's looking for a property, or that's getting frustrated with the whole process, give them some insight on some strategies that might work, and also help them think outside of the norm. Because I know that's the approach that I've been taking with my clients on the real estate side is not just looking up the MLS and seeing what I can find in there, but maybe looking off the MLS, because obviously we know that's where the competition is on the MLS, so any property that gets listed on there first 2 weeks, all eyes on me. Everybody's bidding, especially if it's a property that's ready to be lived in, which means your client's going to be competing every single time, which can be a draining process if they're constantly being outbid or things like that. So I'm taking the approach of trying to find this stuff off market through a variety of different ways, and other further episodes we can kind of dive deep into that a little bit more and hopefully help some realtors or some home buyers out there navigate these waters and get a little not necessarily creative, because it's nothing that hasn't been done before. But just thinking outside the strict MLS. I'm going to find you a property on the MLS only, because that can lead to frustration. It could lead to looking for a property for a lot longer than what you wanted to, and a variety of different things. For a realtor, obviously, if you take a client out and they see 20 properties or they see 10 properties, realtors make the same amount of money. Ultimately, it's about getting the client into the property that they want that matches their needs. Whether we find it on the first day, first offer,
which would be nice. Which would be nice.
Those are great. Or we find it on the 20th day. Our clients will be happier if we find it sooner. Obviously, we'll be happier if we find it sooner, and it'll take less legwork to get them into that home that they want. So it's a win-win for us and for the client. So obviously, have a vested interest there. Just to kind of stay on pace here, let's kind of bring the conversation over a little bit of what's going on in general in the market. So I'm sure everybody's seen rates have gone up this year. Me as a mortgage broker, I see it in the transition from the last 6 to 8 months, where early last year we were in the low threes, as an average, and now we're in the low to mid fours going into this year, which is a significant difference, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I have buyers who started out in that market where they were getting quoted rates at 2.85, 2.9, and it seemed like it wasn't going to be sustainable. So we were out there often trying to keep these rates. And now that it's jumped a little bit more, honestly, I had thought that it was going to detour a lot of buyers. But it kind of, I think it just made people say, hey, let's keep it up before the next rate jump, because the rates are still fairly good, on a historic, like looking at it historically, it's still really good. And dude, I mean, the open houses, the private showings, it's just as competitive right now as it was, only a couple months ago. And that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, that was the unexpected thing where most people thought, the rates are going to go up, prices are going to start going up immediately, or there's going to be at least a little bit of a give, something like that in the values of the property. And turned out not to be the case. So, we'll see what the rest of this year brings. The rates don't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. It seems like they're headed towards closer to the fives towards the end of the year. So, but the thing is the demand. The supply. There's just a shortage of supply, and as long as there's not enough supply for people to buy, there's so many people, at least in the market that you and I are in, which is Southern California. There's so many people around here that we need homes to be able to sell them, or the demand will just keep increasing the prices.
Dude, it really is interesting, and just trying to find different avenues to let people know, like, hey, there is a small rate jump, and they are trending upwards, but if you want something, it's better to start building equity now than, taking your year break or taking, whatever it might be, before you start looking again. It just takes that one offer to get accepted for someone to get in the property, and, really coaching those clients, whether you're FHA or VA or cash or conventional loan. There are going to be strategies just depending on the market to get you in something. You just have to trust the process. And my wife was telling me, she's like, why do you say that? It's so cheesy. Like when I tell them, the property that you get into is meant to be. She's like, that's so cheesy. Do you actually say that? I'm like, yeah, because, you're going to end up making it your own. And whether it's your first or second home, I think it's for this market, whatever you get, you're going to end up happy with, because you're going to have a home to build equity in and just get that burden off your shoulders of owning something.
Yeah.
It
doesn't have to be a forever home. You just gotta get in the game, maybe live there for a few years, and they can use that property to help them level up to the next one, or they can, have it be taken over as an investment property and then get their next property. Or there's a couple different ways that they can do it, but at least they didn't miss the boat on that part of their financial, situation, whether it's for them to live in or for them to have an investment long term,
Dude, 100%, man. I know, as an agent, but also as someone who's looking to get an investment property or even, my primary residence, it's, we can only change a handful of things, and interest rates for us, I can't, I have nothing to do with that. But what I can change is, hey, maybe my criteria changes a little bit, or maybe I, adjust my radius 5 miles outside of where I'd like to be. I'd love to live in Long Beach right now. But the way prices are trending, hey, maybe now I just go a city or two over, and I use that, like you said, for a couple years, add value to it, and now I'm renting it out. It just takes a little bit of a mind shift if you're finding it hard to get into a property right now. Just change it up a little bit, and something.
Life, right? We have to adjust in life. We got to roll with the punches, and this market is part of that. So,
dude, I've been trying to get a 6-pack for like 7 years. And you know what? I like beer. I had to change it a little bit now to a couple beers rather than 7 or 8.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a little bit, just little small adjustments.
Just little adjustments, man.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good. Yeah, the buyers that stay in that mindset, I believe, end up buying the property. Might take them a little bit longer, but they end up getting in the property.
So here's the question, Jerardo. When, let's say, the average FICO score that you're seeing come across the table, let's say it's around like 680. Would you say roughly somewhere in there? What is the mortgage difference monthly for someone who is, putting down 20% between that low 3s and the low 4s now? Is there like a rough estimate in what people could budget for?
You mean interest rate wise? What's the difference from like a 740 or something?
More like what's the price difference like monthly? Like, let's say, hey, my mortgage at 3% was going to be $2,400. Now that it's 4%, Jerardo, like what could I expect? How much more could I expect to pay?
Yeah. A lot of it depends on the price of the property, obviously, because the larger the home, the larger the increase will be. But in general, I would say, anywhere from $50 to $150, depending on the property itself. Maybe closer to the $100 to $150.
And that was kind of the point that I've been trying to get across to some of my buyers. Is like, hey, I understand the price or the interest rates did jump, a percentage point, but you're really only looking, if you break it up monthly, at a, somewhere between $80 to $120 difference. We need to stay in this market, stay the course, And this is me not wanting to try to sound salesy, because, you know, at the end of the day, our job is to serve our clients best. And if we know their budget can't handle that additional, you know, couple $100, then, you know, we're not going to push it. But, you know, just based on how motivated my clients are to get a home, that's what I try to convey is like, hey man, you know, it's $100 more, give or take. Let's stay on this and just adjust our criteria a little bit, and we will land something.
Yeah, and then also something for them to consider is they won't necessarily have that loan for the whole time they have the property. Most people end up refinancing the loan at some point. If you're buying with mortgage insurance on your loan, you'll probably want to get rid of that at some point. So I mean, you'll refinance that loan anyways. Also, you never know what could happen with the rates. You know, some world event can happen at the end of this year that we don't see coming. Let's go down again, and everybody that locked in at a higher rate can now go back in and refinance their loan. So they're not necessarily stuck.
Yeah.
On that rate, on that loan. It's more what they should focus on is, can I afford this payment? Does this payment make sense? Right. And if it does, then the rate doesn't matter, because what you're going to gain in the long run owning this home is going to outweigh those benefits. Plus, that loan could be refinanced at some point, and you know, maybe you had it for only a year or whatever on that higher rate. Those are the unknowns. It's more about, can you afford this payment? Does this property make sense for you? Does this payment make sense for you, depending on if you're going to live in it or if you're going to rent it? And if it does, then you know, jump on it. 2 of the properties I bought this year, one of them's at 5.75%. The other one's at like 5%. But the number still makes sense. They're rental properties to me. I'm still cash flowing. Obviously, if there's an opportunity for me to refi and bring that rate down, I'm going to jump all over it, because it will increase the cash flow of the property. But as it is right now, it makes sense. So I went in on the property and, you know, didn't think twice about it. A year into owning that property, or 6 months into owning that property. So that's something to remind people of that. And also, if they're even the monthly payment, if they're moving into a property and they're worried about the monthly payment, there's ways around that too. You know, finding a home with a detached garage, it's going to get you an extra $1,500 a month. You know, that's going to be any type of short-term rate hike. You know, if you have, especially here in California, they're making it a lot easier to add ADUs.
Yep.
Because of the housing shortage. So that I always bring up that idea to my clients, because that's something that I'm doing, that I use to get into one of the most competitive neighborhoods near downtown LA, where my neighbors are selling for 1.6, and I bought my property for $950, and it has a back unit that I rent out that helps us with the rent. You know, we're able to own our own home, build equity. This last year was insane. We were able to capitalize and get some of that equity. And also, we're comfortable. We're happy. We were living in an apartment before. Now we have some outdoor space. We got a garage. The dogs can run around. And
you're making me jealous, dude.
Yeah. But the thing is that people sometimes they get closed-minded when it comes to that. Like, I don't want to live somewhere where there's other people or whatever. And I can see there are some things that you have to put up with. But as the owner, you can kind of create the scenario that you want. And based on the property, you visualize what can be created with that particular property. It doesn't make sense with all of them. And with some of them, it takes more money to get that happening, but it's very possible. Some of the, like on the investor sites, they call it house hacking. You basically live in a property, you rent part of the property, whether it's another unit or another room, and that helps you with your mortgage, where you might be paying what you would be paying if you're renting somewhere else, but you're gaining equity, you're getting the long-term benefits of real estate, you're getting the tax write-offs, and you're getting the knowledge of how it works. So now you can go and duplicate that. No one got rich off one property. No one created wealth off one. It's the repetition of that process, multiple properties, maybe moving on to bigger properties. So if you really want to get success in real estate, it's going to take more than one property anyways. So might as well.
Dude, yeah. without a doubt. And, as I said earlier, we are looking to get something, and house hacking 100% is what's on my mind. But I've had to adjust. Obviously, I'm married, and I don't want someone living in my exact house. I don't want to see the same person every day that I don't really know. Yeah. but detached garage, having that possibility to, give them their privacy as well as us. That's something that, it's still going to be a little bit of a sacrifice. Maybe I'm giving up a parking spot for that, but in the long run, when you are able to build that equity or rent both units out, I mean, come on, that's the start of something big. And it truthfully only will take, a couple years to get everything up and running.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So very possible. Just gotta think outside, maybe not outside the box, because that is within the box, you could say, but have to, talk to the people that know the right strategies to get you in the property. And that's what I mean with buyers that are really committed to getting the property. They'll figure out a way, and they'll talk to the right people that will help them get into a home, because it's not impossible. People are doing it. Just a matter of sticking with it.
Yeah, it has to be presented the right way, for sure. Yeah.
And the person has to be in the right mindset for it,
Yeah.
Because if they're not in the right mindset in life in general, it's going to be very hard to apply that to this stressful experience. It can be a stressful experience, right? Obviously, if you're in the business, you have to kind of learn to detach from that, or you go crazy, right? So, or you become numb from going into so much craziness. But, if in general in your life you kind of have that mentality, that mindset of we can make this happen. My family and I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Apply that.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but as an agent, you do have to detach yourself from, not getting an offer accepted or not getting to hear what you want, because I would tell a couple agents, if that first year I didn't have that mindset, I would have been crying in my room, and I probably would have quit the business. Wow. Because, when the pandemic hit, I think 4 out of my 8 or 9 buyers that I was working with couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the 6 months of looking. So they said, hey, we'll wait till the following year to get looking. Well, for me, if I would have attached myself to that money, that was, potential income for me and my family, it would have been tough. But you need to stay the course as an agent and just understand what's best for your clients and do your best to get them into a property. Because in the end, it'll benefit both of you.
Oh yeah. So well, hopefully you get some of those buyers in escrow that you're working with. Just want to touch on one thing that I read earlier or over the weekend. Actually, it's like a proposed assembly bill. It's real estate related. It's Assembly Bill 1771. It would impose a 25% tax on all net capital gain from the sale or exchange of homes or properties. So while the tax may be reduced if significant time has passed, those qualified taxpayers who would buy and sell a house within 3 years would need to pay the tax. All revenue from the tax would go to speculation and capture community reinvestment fund. Not sure what that means, but basically trying to tax property owners. It's already difficult enough to get in a property, and they're trying to kind of take away from that a little bit. But anyways, if you have some time, read into it.
I have a little bit of a thought on it, because it's interesting, man, because as I'm someone who's playing both sides of the coin, right? Like, yes. I'm looking to buy and I'm helping buyers. There's a housing shortage, and I can't tell you the amount of times that same home that we put an offer on was bought up, and 4 months later, there she is back on the market, but with a new coat of paint on it. And now it's, now maybe 120,000 above where that price started in the same neighborhood. So on that side of the coin, it's tough, man. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're helping buyers. But the other part of my brain is, hey, I know what real estate can do and how it can build wealth. Like you said, man, most people who are building wealth are doing it through real estate, or at least have a hand in real estate, right? Yeah, I could see, because there is a shortage in housing, I could see why the bill is proposed. But damn it, I could definitely see why investors or people in the business, even buyers who are investors or are looking to get into it, would be pissed, because, man, it's a hefty tax. It's not a little bit of money.
Yeah, because that could also be someone that buys a home, as a primary residence, and then needs to leave the state for work or whatever. Now they got to pay this huge tax. So that's, obviously some people that it might not be intended for, you could say, will end up paying some of those tax costs that they wouldn't have to pay before. In general, I think on flipping, there's a couple ways. You can kind of see that, right? Is one, these flippers are buying up the properties that, regular families could be buying. And driving up the price, you could say. I know in my particular neighborhood, those people, there's some of the people that are selling, they've been there since the 70s.
Yeah.
And most families looking for a home don't have $100,000 to renovate a property from the 30s or 20s.
For sure.
And so that's one benefit I do see from them is they buy the property, which some lenders won't even finance because of the condition of the property. They're able to buy it with unconventional means or maybe in cash and have the money up front to fix it, renovate it, and put it on the market for a family that's coming in that is looking for a home that's ready to live in, which is most people. Oh yeah,
it's at least, it's more than half of the clients that I'm working with. We're not going out to view, the homes that are totally beat up, because like you said, man, it does cost money. Yeah. Ideally, we would like a home that's ready to go. But it is
jobs to work, families to take care of. Yeah. And most people don't do construction part-time. So that's it becomes not only a money burden, but a time burden, right? Especially if you can't find the right people or you don't know people in construction, then you can get. I know I moved into my property and I've had to, it was, the front was remodeled and the back wasn't, but there's a lot of hidden things on older properties that a lot of people don't realize. And me being in the industry maybe had a little bit more insight on it, but there's still things that, that get kind of overlooked. One of them, to give you an example, is the sewer line. If you don't have someone that's letting you know, hey, you need to get a plumber to run a camera down the sewer line and see what's going on, if you wouldn't find all the roots that are going through the sewer line, especially in the neighborhood that I live in that has these huge, beautiful trees, but those trees have very deep roots.
Yeah.
Those roots go through your sewer line, and that sewer line needs to be replaced, and you don't see it when you're looking at the property. That's a $5,000 to $10,000 expense you didn't see coming.
That's an issue, man. Yeah, that's it's thankfully, like you said, we're in the business and we know to advise people like, hey, make sure you do check that sewer line, or hey, let's double check, homes that are on a slab foundation versus a raised foundation. There are definitely things that you need to look out for, and it's just interesting. From the outside looking in, if you're in this business, it's just like, hey, you get a house to sell, you sell that bad boy, and then you make a ton of money. Yeah, that's not the case. Yeah,
you have to do right by your client. You have to make sure that you give them as much insight as possible, because as an agent, if you do a great job for a client, they're gonna be either a lifelong friend or a lifelong referral source, or just putting your best foot forward always leads to positive results or positive energy coming back your way. And,
oh, dude, I remember one of my first sales. My clients were working within a budget, and we found this really, really nice home that was built in 1920, and we got it into escrow. And on that inspection day, that foundation had issues, but it was more that there's a growth of mold all around the bottom. Oh. And when it was all said and done, the agent on the other side that I was talking to, he was kind of implying like, hey man, like just don't let them know, like we could get this going and you'll close a deal. Like just let it be. It's under the house. It's not in the house. And it would have been a for sure sale, right? Because my clients loved the home, but as someone who eventually would become their friend, and like you said, they're a lifelong referral source. How are you going to do that? So we ended up, that was something that we ended up saying no to at the end of the day. And 2 months later, when it still couldn't sell, he's like, "Hey man, we got rid of the mold. You wanna do it again?" And I didn't trust him at that time, but we delayed our house purchase for 4 months before we found something else. But like you said, we have a duty and obligation to our clients to not put them in harm's way, or do our best to get them something that they could be happy with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see how this proposed bill. I don't think it's passed yet. We'll see how it pans out, but to be determined on that. And so great conversation today. I think we provided some good insights on whether you're a buyer's agent out there or someone that's looking to buy currently or in the near future. Looking forward to having more of these with you, man. It should be fun. And we'll take it from there. Hopefully you have a good rest of the weekend.
Dude, I look forward to the next one, brother.
All right. Thank you, man. I'll see you soon.
All right, man. Peace. Bye.